Hello and welcome to What's Next. It's the Indy NXT Road Series here from the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course in virtual Lexington, Ohio. We're just getting to the conclusion of practice here. Word on the street is that this is going to be a fantastic night of racing. We've already heard races going on tonight where battles for the lead have been 2x2, multiple rows deep, lap after lap, and I think we're going to be in for another great race that's been kicking off this stellar season we've got here in 2026 Season 3, Sophie.
Yes, and this is one of the racetracks in North America when it comes to road racing. Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course is a challenging, undulating strip of pavement in central Ohio. You're going to see a lot of people struggling for grip, and this car is notorious, Jacob, for having that kind of snap torque spin on corner exit. So it's going to be a challenge for these drivers.
Driver that's already conquered it this week is none other than Takumi Numata. He's finished third in the last two events we've had here in the Indy NXT Road Series on P1. He's picked up 2 wins to kick off this week here at Mid-Ohio. We'll see if he can round it out with 3 in a row here tonight. The driver from Japan taking comfortably to the hills of Ohio here. He's doing his outlap here from the track. He'll be joined by the likes of Daniel Falkingham, reigning 2-time series champ Jared Corey, Jake King, Aiden Kale, Nick Sudik, Alex Kariba, the rear-world Indy NXT driver, back once again, Isaac Gardner, Giovanni Blackerby, Caleb Brashear, the pilots in cars 1 through 10 here. We'll get to touching on the rest of the field throughout the night, but we're glad to have everybody here in the chat with us. I believe that's Casey Lee and Nick Dwornik chiming in, along with Crazy F1 Addict. Not quite sure who that would be. Might be Costello. I can't. Looks like a driver with a helmet on for the profile picture. Not quite sure who that would be, but good to see them out here rooting the stream on. Takumi's setting back up. He didn't like his outlap that time around, so he's going to try to give it another go here. He's got plenty of time to play with here. Lap times we're expecting to be kind of low 1 minute 12 or less for the top end of the field here tonight. Sophie, a very quick lap here around the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course with that 450 horsepower engine we've got here behind the IL-15.
Yeah, and the secret to kind of that short lap time is more about car placement and kind of not over driving the corners. There's a lot of complex corners, particularly from turn 4 onward on this course after China Beach. So if you really are too aggressive, or maybe you feel like you push the tires too hard and they're not going to give you the grip you need, it makes sense to kind of reset and refocus since you didn't really take your first lap.
And Numata goes for a spin that time on the outlap. He's going to reset here again. He is starting to push the limit on how much time he's going to have left here. Aiden Kale will shoot to provisional pole with a 1 minute 12.460 for the driver of the 5 machine. Let's go hop out with Giovanni Blackerby as he concludes his first lap here from Mid-Ohio. He'll pilot the 9 machine tonight. Jarrett Corey shoots to the top of the 1 minute 12.290.
Yeah, and Blackerby currently slotted in at third with a 1 minute 12.638, just 4/10 short of pole as he kind of works his way through the keyhole there. The track kind of falls away, and you kind of see that's definitely going to be an off track for Blackerby there coming out of the keyhole.
Yeah, likely going to put his qualifying run to rest, but he's nonetheless going to finish this lap off, get the track time, get the jitters out, if you will. We'll hop out with Jarrett Corey, who's rounding his second lap here. He's working his way through kind of the middle section of the track here in that number 3 for Rogue Racing. Falkingham shoots to the point with a 1 minute 12.091. Corey, big slide up over the crest of the hill. That's not going to be good for speed.
No, and that's something that's just so easy to do. You just take a little bit too much of that curb, and it unsettles the car. As it's coming over the crest of that hill, the car is really light, so just that tiny little bit of an overstep really punishes you, and it's why this track is just so well regarded by all of these drivers and by drivers across disciplines, whether it be in sports cars or in open wheel machinery.
Corey does improve just a little bit on that second lap. Not good enough to dethrone pole sitter provisionally Daniel Falkingham, who we're going to catch up with here now. He's piloting the somewhat iconic Lucky Charms IL-15 once again. He's coming up over the crest of that same hill we saw Corey get loose over. He's looking to round out his second of 2 qualifying laps, maybe try to get into the 1 minute 11, Sophie.
Yeah, that certainly seems possible as Falkingham working his way through that last sector where can be a little bit tricky getting the power down. And Falkingham doesn't improve, runs a 1:12.1. Another driver who having a qualifying to forget besides Takumi Numata, Kariba, the actual real world Indy NXT driver, he has had a spin. Alexander Kariba spun through Thunder Valley, and that's going to unfortunately invalidate his lap time and resign him to, I believe, that is going to be a 7th place starting right now for the driver of the number 7 machine.
Yeah, he'll be lined up just behind Jake King and Caleb Brashear as it stands. Numata's the only car not to have gotten a time in. He's trying to still get one in now. He's on his first flying lap now. Let's try to catch the Japanese driver now. Ran a little wide at turn number 1 there. Not sure if that's going to be good for a clean lap for him or not. We'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, you can push that a little bit, but not much as he uses all the track available to him there coming out of the keyhole. He's going to tuck it nice and tight here under the alternate start finish. And then we're going to go into China Beach, braking hard, trying to keep that car over to the right so you can get nice and tight and sweeping here through Madness. Now into the S's, this right, left, right complex that heads into Thunder Valley, Jacob.
And you see Numata using just about every curb, sticking it out as wide as he possibly can. You even see a bit of dirt kick up over the crest of that hill there as he'll work his way towards the final couple of corners, including that all-important carousel to get the run to the start-finish line here. Here he comes through the carousel now. He's going to get the power down.
And he might have time enough for one more lap, Jacob. He crossed with 1 minute 14 left, so he might get something in. Not a good lap time from him, a 1 minute 12.8. Only good enough for 12th place. Only other car out on track is Kenneth Smith in 13th.
Yes, Kenneth getting some extra laps in, just trying to get a feel for the car and the track here. Good to see him back out here behind the wheel of the IL-15. So we'll continue to watch Takumi Numata close out his qualifying run. We'll see if he can get this time in before the clock runs out. He should if he's on pace to improve here. We'll just have to wait and see. As he comes through the end of China Beach up over the crest here.
He's going to get down on the power, get that car back over so he can go through that right-hand corner underneath the Honda bridge here. Honda famously has a factory nearby, I believe, and that's why there's such an IndyCar presence at Mid-Ohio, Jacob. Is going to head through this last high-commitment corner right before the carousel.
Yeah, it kind of serves as a bit of their home race for Honda in the United States. Of course, we don't go overseas to Japan where the likes of Numata would be hailing from, but he'll come across the start-finish line with just a couple seconds left to spare here.
And he will jump to third right in the nick of time there for Takumi Numata. 1 minute 12.237 is good enough for third place for the Japanese driver.
He'll line up behind our front row of an absolutely stacked set of drivers, stacked pair of drivers. We'll run through them. And everybody else in this field here as drivers take to the grid here from Mid-Ohio for the very first time in the Indy NXT Road Series. Kind of surprising it's been as long as it has been that we've gone without Mid-Ohio here in this series. But we finally made it, and I think we're going to be in for a stellar event as we'll get that front row and the rest of the grid ready to roll here.
Yes, let's start going through the starting lineup here, Jacob, from Mid-Ohio, while we wait for the rest of the field to grid, because it is a bit of a shorter pace lap here. Even though it's a full pace lap, it's still a pretty short lap here. So let's get into the starting lineup. On the pole, it is going to be Daniel Falkingham with a 1 minute 12.0. Ahead of Jarrett Corey, the two-time defending champion, with a 1 minute 12.166. Takumi Numata, as we just saw, lines up in third next to Aiden Kale, who I believe has been having a great start to the season in P4 with a 1 minute 12.2. Carter A. Thompson. I believe that's the first time we're seeing him this season with a 1:12 set to 7 ahead of Jake King, who is a perennial fast guy in this Road to Indy ladder, will line up in 6th. Caleb Brashear, the I-5G driver hailing from Ohio, will line up in 7th ahead of Real World Indy NXT driver Alexander Kariba. Nicholas Sudik, the driver for Nexus Esports, lines up in 9th next to Indy Kirchenbauer, part of the votive TMR Entente that I am a part of, lines up in 10th. Giovanni Blackerby, the young driver, I believe also hailing from Ohio, lines up in 11th. Tony Scalpelli will line up in 12th. Then Kenneth E. Smith in 13th. Logan Spath, driver famously who runs mostly in the Formula Indy series for Malamo Esports, lines up in 14th. Dylan Vilashinsky, the reigning Oval Indy NXT champion, puts in a time good enough for 15th, followed by the Canadian of Nick Dwornik in 16th. Isaac Gardner will be the 17th car on the second to last row of the grid, followed by William Lindbergh of Djibouti. In 19th, David Clennon, another Canadian in the field, will line up 19th, and Mike Clark, the 20 car, will line up in 20th place here. Jacob, shotgun on this stacked lineup.
A stacked lineup, a large number of drivers from the state of Ohio. Good to see them representing out here at one of their many home tracks here on iRacing. They got a couple dirt ovals in Lima Land and Eldora as well, amongst others. But let's hop back to the front of the field here as we get guided through China Beach and its accessories and work our way towards the middle section of this course here, Sophie. We're going to be underway in less time than we think for 18 laps of Indy NXT Road Series action for round number 3 of 2026 Season 3.
Yes, unlike in real life, they don't use the alternate start-finish line. They use the one on the pit straight, and that can cause some chaos. Famously, in the IndyCar Pro Series, there was a massive accident before the green and that extended all the way into turn number 1 because of starting from that normal start-finish line. The pace car should be kind of ducking off here as they enter into the carousel. So field will be in the control of Daniel Falkingham with Jarrett Corey just alongside.
Cars 1, 2, and 3 in order 2, 3, 1 here for the start of tonight's race. Falkingham gets underway. Big slide.
Oh, Kale's around. There's chaos. Big crash. Big crash.
There's Aiden Kale. He seems to be the worst for wears. He'll fall all the way down to the back of the field, have to work his way through. Back to the front, however, we stay side by side for the first couple spots here. Falkingham gets out to a sizable lead over Corey. He's got Numata to his outside and King hot in tow.
Yes, that was a chaotic start there. Aiden Kale and Carter Thompson, not the start that they would want. Takumi Numata also shuffled back there. It's got Jake King just ahead of him, along with Jarrett Corey. They are all drafting down the front straightaway, and Daniel Falkingham is streaking away as Corey is clinging on and holding on to that P2 for all it's worth.
Yeah, I almost thought they were going to go 3 wide with Numata and King looking down towards China Beach there. They get it figured out. We're single filed out through the bulk of the field now, but Falkingham's got a sizable advantage here off the opening lap. He's able to get that huge launch off the final corner to separate himself from the field. He's going to probably pull the 2 seconds before this lap concludes.
Yeah, just up ahead, Alexander Kariba gets really wide, and that's going to allow Caleb Brashear to maybe sneak in on the inside. He can't quite do it. Kariba holds onto the spot from Caleb Brashear, despite having that wide moment in the carousel.
That's right on board with the I-5G driver running along in 6th. He's going to have a good kind of seat to all these battles here in the front of the field himself and Kariba, and then you've got King and Numata just ahead there as Corey starts to slowly streak away from the pair at the bottom couple steps in there. I guess the bottom step of the podium there.
Oh, there's a car off in the background.
That's
there's
Carter
a car
Thompson.
off in. Yeah, his bad day has gone from bad to worse as he just goes straight on into the keyhole and just kind of punches out. Meanwhile, Aiden Kale is currently being serviced in the pit lane, probably due to damage from that original accident. So not the night that those two would have wanted. as we return to the action, as Takumi Numata is holding on to third place, has Jake King just behind him, followed by Alexander Kariba and Caleb Brashear. Third through sixth covered by less than a second.
Yeah, you're seeing these drivers really, really struggle, particularly over the crest of that hill that I believe is in turn number 7 or 8. The right-hander up over the hill that caught out Alex Palou just a year ago in that IndyCar event here from Mid-Ohio. Very tricky one to get right. You got to back it up a lot in this IL-15 to really roll the speed through there, and then you're really loading those Firestone tires up fairly heavily as the car becomes its lightest over that crest.
Yeah, and right now, it is Daniel Falkingham setting the pace. A 1:12.1 is your current purple lap. That's basically a qualifying lap. Jarrett Corey over a 10th slower in second place. And then it's an even bigger gap between Corey back to Takumi Numata. And Numata has to worry about Jake King just behind him and Alexander Kariba, who is pulling away a little bit ahead of Caleb Brashear.
That gap is starting to slowly build up from Brashear to the group here ahead. He was kind of hounding Alexander Kariba a lap or so ago, but it's fallen just a little further away. We'll see if maybe this battle turns into something a bit more significant. You see Giovanni Blackerby, Andy Kirchenbauer just behind Brashear as well. So we've got a lot of cars with a lot left to fight for here as we work on to lap number 4. And Corey's starting to slowly chip in, maybe just a little into the lead of Daniel Falkingham. It's inside of 2 seconds as they work their way into the keyhole.
Yeah, passing here is incredibly difficult as Jake King is learning. He's right up under the gearbox of Numata as they head down the back straightaway here. There's really only 2 good main opportunities, and that is into the keyhole and then here at China Beach. You can maybe kind of force a cheeky overtake into coming into the carousel, possibly, but that's a high risk, high reward kind of move. So when you have all these twisty bits, Jacob, it's really hard to kind of set up a pass and make it work.
Yeah, you hear those tires sliding a lot on King's machine as he works his way up over the crests of these hills around here. And that's likely going to be something we see play a bigger and bigger factor as this race plays out. Of course, you know, these IL-15's kind of known for rear tire wear, and that's where they kind of need it the most, especially when you're trying to put power down at such a track like this one in Mid-Ohio.
Yeah, and when you kind of get it wrong, you find yourself going off track. You're going to need those tires, obviously, and I don't believe they get any additional sets here, Jacob, just like with the Road Series. So there is no expected pit stop.
Well, it's not an expected pit stop. I do believe you get additional tire sets in this series, unlike its Oval Series counterpart. By and large, that plays into the Oval Series having cautions, this one not. And I think pitting in this series is a big risk. It's King to the outside.
Yeah, King forces the issue, goes around the outside in the China Beach. Now going to have the inside through madness. He takes third place over Takumi Numata. What a brilliant move. That's going to move Numata back to fourth. He's going to have Alexander Kariba all over him as they head through the S's.
And that brings Brashear into the picture. That brings Blackerby into the picture. That's going to become, I believe, a 4-way fight for fourth now. Numata leads it. Then you've got Kariba, Brashear, Blackerby, and then kind of right behind that is going to be Andy Kirchenbauer. So about a half dozen cars separated by maybe a second or two as they work their way on to lap 6, the third-way mark here for tonight's event.
Yeah, Brashear catches a little bit of dirt there as it looks like Kariba has Numata on his inside there, and that's going to force him out wide. Got a big run all up in the gearbox of Takumi Numata. Numata goes defensive. All over him is the real-world Indy NXT driver who is trying to find any way by to maybe keep pace with Jake King, as Numata clearly just doesn't have the raw pace. Further back.
Go ahead.
I was going to say further back in the field, Nick Sudik managed to find his way by, maybe with a little bit of argy-bargy there over Tony Scalpelli. So move Nick Sudik up to the 9th place. Sudik, another Ohio native. He's hopefully going to try and chase down Indy Kirchenbauer as they catch up to the train that is forming behind Takumi Numata as Jake King streaks away from said train.
Yeah, you've got Brashear, Blackerby, Kirchenbauer, and Sudik, all the Ohio drivers lined up kind of right on the pylon for us as Kariba's going to look to the outside once again on Numata into the keyhole. This didn't work the last time. He's trying it again, though.
And he kind of holds tough there. Can he get the power down? Looks like he does. He's alongside of him as they kind of, they bang wheels a little bit into the braking zone. Numata not giving an inch, but it's going to be Kariba leading them into the corner there. He gets a little twitchy there, but he's got the inside into madness. Can they hold it? Ooh, Numata gets a little bit loose there, gets a little bit of contact. Brashear now has to keep an eye on Blackerby. They're still side by side, but Kariba makes it work now as they head through the S's and into Thunder Valley.
You see Brashear almost getting into the back of Numata there as they head up over the crest underneath the PPG banner now, working their way towards the final couple corners on the course. That moves Kariba to 4th. Numata well under fire from Brashear.
Yeah, Brashear is going around, trying to go around the outside, make it work through the last corner. Couldn't quite get it done. You can already see the gap that is opening as Numata really is kind of the bottleneck there as he is all being hounded by Caleb Brashear. Brashear now has to worry about Blackerby as Numata going defensive again, trying to cut off whoever he can to hold on to those positions.
You see Brashear and Blackerby make a bit of contact on the exit there. That's going to allow Nick Sudik on by. Kirchenbauer comes on through as well.
Yes. And I believe the quote I heard from Caleb Brashear is "Go get him" to Indy Kirchenbauer. I believe there is no love lost between Takumi Numata and Caleb Brashear there.
Of a rough situation. A lot of cars just kind of corked in a bottle, if you will, with Numata at the lead of this train in that last position inside the top 5 here as we work lap number 8. Jarrett Corey hasn't made a ton of inroads on Falkingham. The pace is kind of leveled off between those cars. Last time by, about 0.6 of a second separating the two. That time by was about 0.3. I have to wait and see just how much that continues to grow and or shrink. Seems to be lap to lap at the front here. As Kirchenbauer's caught Numata, he's going to be looking to make a move to get into the top 5 here.
Yeah, we are about the halfway point in this race, and as you said, Jarrett Corey and Falkingham running about the same pace, and Corey is probably kicking himself that he wasn't as aggressive on the start because him having to go defensive, having to fight for his position there, really allowed Falkingham to kind of pull out of draft range, and that's just preventing Corey from making those inroads.
Yeah, we see Kirchenbauer try to move down the inside into China Beach. Numata holds it tough. Contact's made over the crest of the hill there. Looks like Kirchenbauer will get away with that.
Yeah, looks like Numata is really struggling to get the power down, and that is just really hurting him as Kirchenbauer looking every which way he can to try and get around Takumi Numata. To head through the carousel now, the votive driver all over the back of the #1 machine. Takumi has the highest I rating of anyone in the field right now in that Cadillac F1 livery.
He dons the #1 car, comes in with 5,938, just shy of $6,000 in the I rating department as we work lap number 10 here. You got a absolute metric ton of IL-15s nose to tail here from Numata all the way back to Dylan Vilashinsky in 14th. That green and black machine just heads off the keyhole there as well. Kirchenbauer is going to look to the outside, down the back straightaway, is on the push to pass. Is he going to be able to pull up far enough ahead? Not quite, but he's going to have a bit of a better run than the last time. Oh, contact!
Ooh, massive hip check, and Kirchenbauer's around, and both of them are off.
And Numata will fall down the order. Kirchenbauer's backwards, has to get the car rolling back the right direction. We'll watch that back. As here they come off the, you see Kirchenbauer get a bit loose off the exit of China Beach there, makes contact with Numata, and then that sends his car for a slide up over the crest of the hill. backs it into the tire bundle. We'll see if that impacts his car heavily here, but he'll rejoin Numata as well. They'll fall to kind of the tail end of this group here as Vilashinsky now inherits the 12th position. That puts Brashear at the head of that group. Nick Studi caught in tow.
Yeah, Caleb Brashear and Nick Studi kind of commiserating over how chaotic that was in voice chat. Looked to me that Kirchenbauer just tried to get the power down after going around the outside into China Beach, got loose and just speared straight into Numata. That kind of knocked Numata off into the marbles and then upset Kirchenbauer's car, and that spun him out.
Yeah, Kirchenbauer's in the pit lane for repairs, so there was likely some additional damage done with that back into the tire bundle there. We'll see if he rejoins the race or not, but that puts Brashear in control of the 5th spot. Then you've got Sudik, Scalpelli, Blackley, Spath, Gardner, Smith, Vilashinsky, kind of the remaining portion of this group. Then you got William Lindbergh, Takumi Numata trying to make it back by Lindbergh for another position there. And then David Clennon, Nick Dornick, Mike Clark, Aiden Kale is back on the track, still on the lead lap after serving repairs following his opening lap kerfuffle. We'll see if any additional help comes his way.
Yeah, currently it is Caleb Brashear pulling out a little bit over Nick Sudik. That's going to be the fight for the top 5. Sudik sitting in 6th place has Scalpelli just behind him. Scalpelli now did have some contact with Sudik earlier in the race, and then just behind them is Giovanni Blackerby, who is sporting some scuffs, some damage to the nose cone of that number 9 car, and so is Logan Spath behind him. So there's some wounded warriors out there right now. Besides, obviously, Indy Kirchenbauer, who was in the pit lane. We also have Takumi Numata, who has a very beat-up IL-15. That car is all used up. Used up by several different cars over the course of this race.
Yeah, we've been riding a bit zoomed in here on the 9 machine for Blackerby. You kind of see right in the center of the nose cone at the tip of it. It's got a bit of damage there. You see likewise similar damage to Spath's car. We jump back a bit further to Takumi Numata's machine. You can see the left side pod's missing from that machine, in addition to any front end damage on that number 1 machine for Takumi. So he's definitely not going to go 3 in a row tonight. Tough break for the driver from Japan. He's just trying to hold on to as many spots as he can. He's being potentially hunted down by David Clennon, who runs along in 15th. See how that plays out for them. Back towards the front, though, the closest battle on course will actually be between Scalpelli, Blackerby, and Spath here. These drivers all separated by about 3/4 of a second, the 3 of them. Then you've got Sudik trying to hunt down Caleb Brashear, about a half second between those two. Vilashinsky's on the back of Kenneth Smith for 11th rather. A lot still yet to fight for here as we get into the final third of this race with 6 to go.
Yeah, Dylan Vilashinsky, not someone we're used to seeing that far back in the pack, Jacob, but this isn't his normal stomping grounds. He's mostly he mostly runs the oval side of things, so it's good to see him trying his hand at the road courses, looking at improving his skills, improving his racecraft. He gets very twitchy through Thunder Valley, manages to hold on to it. That Get Good racing machine squirming and struggling for grip around the Mid-Ohio Sports Car course.
Yeah, you're kind of seeing that befall a lot of these cars kind of towards the back half of the top 10 here. Would not surprise me to see tire wear be uncomfortable, to say the least, for some of these cars deeper in the field, especially with as aggressive as they've been trying to make passes on one another. Let's take a quick look at push to pass. We haven't touched on that yet. It does play a factor, especially at a track like this with that kind of prime passing opportunity down the back straightaway here. You see Karaiba on 24 seconds. Brashear's on the button. He sits now on 30. There's Karaiba on screen now. You got Sudik on 15, Scalpelli on 17, Blackerby on 15, Spath 32, Gardner 18, 17 for Smith, and 23 for Vilashinsky. A lot of drivers have used up a good amount of it here. Daniel Falkingham, though, 61 seconds. He's touched the button maybe one time this whole race, maybe just try to build that gap early on in tonight's running, but we'll get back to gaps between cars now as we get to the final third of this race and close out what's been an absolute barn burner here, Sophie.
Yeah, this has been an absolute stunning race with the battling in the mid-pack here. We've got maybe 4 laps to go here, working lap 15 of 18. Falkingham comfortably ahead of Jarrett Corey, and then has Jake King. Who, now, Kariba is closing, but again, I want to draw your attention, Jacob. Kariba has a bit of front end damage, but he is still turning in some very quick lap times. He was 0.3 faster last lap than Jake King, so maybe we can see some potential action for the final step of the podium if that gap keeps closing, because Kariba is in draft range as they head through China Beach.
That might be part of what's helping his lap time, as King obviously has nobody really in close enough range ahead of him to pull a tow, as Corey's about almost 4 seconds now away, 3.5 plus, depending on where you find him on the course. Kariba's really pushing that car, and you can hear it. Over the crest, you see the big slide over the hill for Kariba through that corner there. We'll head through the left here to set up for the carousel. Let's see what kind of inroads he makes here. Is this a good corner to gain a lot of time? King runs a bit wide here. Gives Kariba kind of a straight shot to the start-finish line here. He's going to pull on in through. Let's see. That time around, he was about 0.2 faster than King. So this isn't over, I think, until this race ends, Sophie.
Yeah, I don't think it's over at all. And, I mean, really, Jake King kind of benefited from being the first person to get around Takumi Numata, who was really kind of just holding up the whole field behind him. And he just was doing a very good job of defending and just letting in one car every little bit. Eventually, everyone kind of lost their patience with him there, and that resulted in the contact with Kirchenbauer and others. You could probably figure out that that's probably how some of these cars got their damage. We're now 3 laps to go here. Jake King now looking in his mirrors because he's got Alexander Kariba all up in them in that white and red machine.
Yeah, it looks like Kenneth Smith might have had an off that we'll try to get back to. Giovanni Blackerby's been passed by Logan Spath for the 8th spot. Let's take a look and see what happened to Kenneth heading off into the keyhole. So there he is off the course. We'll wind it back just a little bit further. I think he just overcooks it here, goes for a bit of a slide. Don't think he makes contact with anything here. We'll make sure. Yeah, he gets beached into the sand, manages to keep it going here. So he'll rejoin the race in 13th, ahead now of David Clennon in that player's machine. We'll see if David can make a move before this one ends. But we've got just a couple laps to go here. 2 of them, in fact, as Kariba continues to hunt down Jake King for the final step of the podium. He's within half a second down the back straightaway here. Both drivers on the push to pass.
Yeah, Jake King able to kind of manage the gap a little bit. That last time through, Kariba was 0.4 faster. Kariba's now up on his gearbox through madness, but Jake King gets the power down a little bit better as they head through the S's, streaking under the Honda Bridge. They're now going to head into Thunder Valley. That rest of the hill, very tricky to get the power down on, but everyone makes it through cleanly. They're now going to head up through this left-hander and then into the carousel.
Here they come through the final couple of corners here. I believe Falkingham will get the white flag this time. It'll come up on our screen shortly, I'd imagine. There it is. So here comes King and Kariba off the final corner for the penultimate time. Max King rooting on Jake. Forget the relationship there. I believe they're brothers, if I recall correctly, but good to see him rooting on the driver of the 4. We'll hopefully get to talk to him when this one comes to a close, but he's still got about 2 miles and change, maybe a little less than that as they round the keyhole here. They'll hold on to the final step of the podium here from Alexander Kariba. Both drivers on the push to pass down this long back straightaway. King holds the push to pass advantage. Kariba's just run out. King's going to use all but 1 second down the back straight there.
And while this is happening, Jacob, Daniel Falkingham now coming through Thunder Valley, heading up towards the carousel for the last time. The Lucky Charms driver car just having a completely magically delicious race. That's not my finest work there, Jacob, but it's going to be Daniel Falkingham who wins here at Mid-Ohio. Jarrett Corey will come across in second in the Rogue Racing Machine. Jake King hangs on with Alexander Kariba in fourth. Caleb Brashear now is going to be coming across the line in 5th place, followed by Nick Sudik the two Ohioans, followed by Tony Scalpelli in 7th, then Logan Spath in 8th. Giovanni Blackerby comes home in 9th, Isaac Gardner in 10th.
That'll be the bulk of the field having crossed the line. Just a handful of cars left to make it to the flag stand. Among them will be the likes of Mike Clark, Aiden Kale. Getting to the line there. There's Mike, I believe. He'll cross the line. And then Aiden Kale will be the last car on the lead lap. 2 DNFs here. Indy Kirchbauer, Carter Thompson in 19th and 20th. But we'll run you through the finishing results here from Mid-Ohio. Let's see if we can chase down Falkingham's machines. He's still circulating the course. We'll put him in the background while we get tonight's finishing results from Mid-Ohio. And it will be Daniel Falkingham in that Lucky Charms machine, picking up the win, 3.8 seconds, the margin of victory over Jarrett Corey. Jake King will round out the podium in the number 4 machine. He holds off Real World Indy NXT driver Alexander Kariba for that one. Caleb Brashear will round out the top 5 ahead of Nick Sudik. Tony Scalpelli will be 7th ahead of Logan Spath. Giovanni Blackerby, Isaac Gardner round out the top 10. Moving further down, you've got Dylan Vilashinsky holding on to the 11th spot ahead of William Lindbergh. Kenneth Smith in 13th. David Clennon, Takumi Numata following the struggle between himself and Kirchbauer will fall to 15th. Nick Dwornik finishes 16th in number 16. Mike Clark in 17th. Aiden Kale, we saw his opening lap spin. He'll finish 18th. Indy Kirchbauer, the first of the 2 DNFs. Carter A. Thompson, I believe, was involved in the first lap incident with Kale alongside going, I believe, off at the keyhole later on. And that'll do it for all 20 cars here from Mid-Ohio. And we'll get to talk to a handful of drivers here up on the podium, see what they have to say about their races here from the sports car course in Lexington, Ohio.
Yes, what a fantastic race with all the battling throughout the pack. We are going to have interviews lined up shortly. I see Jarrett Corey, Daniel Falkingham, and Jake King, so we can get started, Jacob.
We'll just get some cars caught up further back so we got enough time to give everybody their due here. There's Mr. King. Get his car up on the screen. Slow it down just a little bit more there. There we are. We'll get him on up here and see what he has to say following a great battle here late in the going. Jacob Collins, Sophie Connell, P1 Broadcasting. You got us?
Loud and clear.
Well, you pick up another podium here, but you definitely had to work for it as Real World Indy NXT driver Alexander Kariba was hunting you down late in the stages here. Walk us through your race. It seemed to be a battle of who could kind of get through the cork in the bottle, with Takumi Numata maybe struggling a bit early on in this race here tonight.
Yeah, that was exactly it. Luckily, I missed the mess at the very start, and then it was just getting around Takumi. He's one of the harder guys to get around cleanly in this group. So once we got around him, I was able to at least stay on pace with first and second to a degree. I think I wore out my rears a little bit, started making mistakes, and Kariba was hot on my tail, so had to save my button for when he inevitably caught me.
Yeah, and this seems to be a track, and likely is a track, that is going to be very emphasizing of your kind of tire wear around here with all the crests and very unstable power down points around here. Maybe talk us through maybe some of the adjustments you're making inside the car here to try to make that manageable. Obviously, we don't have adjustable throttle maps in this series, so you're having to do all of it either with your right foot or the anti-roll bars and brake bias around here. Was there maybe anything you were trying kind of later on in the going here to help that car around the track?
Yeah, I wasn't getting too fancy with the in-car adjustments. It was more so focused on the right foot, especially that left-hander after trying to beach. You want to keep the throttle on enough just to keep the turbo spooled and everything and have that power. But if you go just a little overboard, it's so easy to spin them up. So it was just managing throttle input and when we applied the throttle, which was the determining factor of saving our rears enough to stay in third to the end.
To talk about it time and time again, that the ultimate tool is your feet and your hands. Sophie, you got anything for Jake tonight?
Yeah, Jake, how critical was it getting around Takumi Numata? I mean, you mentioned he's one of the more difficult people to pass. It seemed like whoever got around him sooner ended up just kind of streaking away from that group.
Yeah, I mean, I we raced at 9 o'clock, so I kind of knew what his pace would be, and kind of got a taste of where I could or could not make a pass. Luckily, around the outside of China Beach worked a charm. But there's very few passing zones, a lot of awkward, slower corners where you can get stacked up behind a guy like that. So it was super critical, and as you guys saw, and being able to get some clean air and actually run how fast this car needed to be ran to keep pace.
Well, you got the moves made at the right time, stayed out of trouble, stayed pointed the right direction, and made it to the finish here, Jake. Another podium finish here for you. You know the drill. Friends, family, sponsors. Anybody like to shout out? Floor is yours.
Yeah, shout out to my brother Max. I know he's always watching the live stream, so hopefully we put on a good show for him. And a shout out to my real world sponsors when I race my vintage Formula Ford, Triple T Cutting Tools, Homestead Realty, Cindy Parker, um, Cornerstone Financial Advisors. A lot of those guys really help me out and keep me moving. So thank you guys for a great broadcast.
Appreciate you for joining us once again here, Jake. We'll hopefully catch you out next week as the series heads to the Charlotte Roval for the very first time.
Sounds like fun.
We'll hopefully catch you there. Go out and celebrate. That'll do it for Mr. King, and we'll bring up Jarrett Corey, no stranger to the podium here in Indy NXT competition. We'll see what he has to say following Mid-Ohio. Jarrett, I think it came down to where you started this race here. You got Jacob Collins, Sophie Connell in the booth here. Thoughts on this race? It seemed like you maybe were going to be able to fight Falkingham if you were closer on the start, but ultimately he got out to a huge lead on that opening lap here.
Yeah, track position definitely played a part. I mean, Takumi decided that he wants to dive me into the first corner like it's the last lap and not the first lap because I was nearly clear of him and just missed the corner and forced me wide. And so we just kind of lost Falkingham. And from there, I mean, he just had good enough to pace to manage that gap. I mean, throughout the whole field, our pace was pretty close. Um, there wasn't like a huge amount of time I could gain on him. Like I ended up just banking on like 50 seconds of push to pass on really make a mistake that costs him like 2 seconds and I get like right close to him or even just ahead of him possibly, then I have something to fight with instead of just using it all up now. And ultimately he just drove a clean race without any mistakes, so he certainly earned a win.
Yeah, and it certainly always seems to come down about track position at this track. You know, you talk about fighting amongst the field. We saw that kind of come to blows with Kirchenbauer and Numata through China Beach later on in this race. How important is it to just kind of get a clean section to track around here to really start hitting your marks and clicking laps off to get to the finish here?
Yeah, it's pretty important. I mean, this is a twisty track. At the same time, it's not like it didn't seem like it was that bad for actual racing. Like you could race here, but position definitely helps. I think it was more the gap that I lost, like the time I lost in that first two corners that really cost me, like more than anything else because like with just how close we were, there was not a whole lot I felt like I could do with the pace I had to catch Falkingham. I mean, he qualified on pole for a reason. But I mean, speaking of qualifying, knowing how close the field was before even going into this race, I actually just turned off my black box, which I've kind of got into a habit of doing, and I'm pretty sure I've heard you do that too, Jacob. Or at the very least, you race with no black box. So I just wanted like no sort of distractions, nothing going in my mind, just drive the car, and it worked out well enough to give me P2.
Yeah, minimize the distractions, focus on what's ahead of you and nothing else. It's a not a bad way to do it. That's typically how I do it, as you kind of mentioned there. Sophie, you got anything for Jarrett tonight?
Well, Jared, again, I mean, you kind of summed it up. I was going to ask, how critical was it that Falkingham got that clean getaway? Because it seemed you were both even on pace, but you kind of answered my question for me. So we did hear from Jake King that kind of tires were falling away. So what was there anything you were doing to kind of manage your tires?
Not a whole lot. I did hear from Falky, and apparently he was turning up the brake bias a little bit over the race, and so that probably helped him because he definitely pulled the gap out at the end. So even if we were close, maybe he would have just pulled away from me anyways because he had better tires. I think I finished at, I'm looking now, 78.80 on the rear, so 2% more wear, or no, 4% more wear on the left side, or left rear than left front, and then even on the right side. So I mean, there was definitely a little bit of tire wear. They were starting to get away from me. Um, and the drop off isn't that big, but also is using more push to pass, so it evens out. I will say real quick that I did get wheel damage with my contact with Numata in the keyhole. But as I've also said before, wheel damage, like minor wheel damage, doesn't seem to affect this car either. So like, I don't think it mattered too much.
Well, it didn't matter enough to kick you off the podium. You finished second here tonight, Jarrett. You know the drill. Friends, family, sponsors. Anybody like to shout out? Floor is yours.
Yep, Road Racing, P1 Broadcasting, putting this on. That's all I've got.
Well, thank you for joining us once again, Jarrett. We'll hopefully catch you out next week as the series heads to the Charlotte Roval for the very first time.
Yep. I'm contemplating whether or not I want to do that one, but I might see you there, might not.
Coin flip for Mr. Corey. Go celebrate tonight.
Yeah.
That'll do it for Jarrett. He finishes second tonight. We'll bring up Daniel Falkingham, no stranger to the top step here in Indy next. Daniel, Jacob Collins, Sophie Connell, P1 Broadcasting. You got us?
Hey, I got you.
Well, you put on a textbook kind of clinical race here tonight. Started at the front, got the huge gap to kick this race off, and just had to maintain it from there. Walk us through maybe what you figured out to get the pole position and put yourself in the prime position to win this race here tonight.
Yeah, just kind of just throwing the car, just hoping it sticks, because I learned a little just of like what gears to use and kind of just how to how to drive the car, because I did the 9 o'clock race before this, and I didn't really put it together in quali, so I was hoping I could put it together here. And the track was, I believe, was significantly cooler for qualifying this race than it was the last one. Like, I think it was about 5 degrees cooler, so I knew the track's gonna have a lot of grip. So we kind of just went out there, put a lap down, and we actually got done on my first lap. I think I went wide at the keyhole on my second lap, which kind of messed it up because I almost came back even at the end of the lap. So if I would have missed the keyhole, we probably could have hit a 111. That's just how much grip the track had. But just glad we could get on pole, because I knew if I could put this thing on pole, I knew like I had the pace to kind of try to hopefully like just keep the lead and stuff. But I wasn't expecting to pull away because I know how fast Jared is in this car. So to pull that gap and just how good of a pace we had during that race is pretty significant.
Yeah, we were kind of expecting maybe to see a 1 minute 11 and change come the end of qualifying, coming up just a little bit short there. But kind of walk us through how tires impacted your race. We heard from Jarrett that you may be making some brake bias adjustments throughout this race to keep the tires and the car under wraps here. Was there maybe something you felt really, really worked for you that impacted your ability to keep it manageable at the front here?
Yeah, I'm not like an expert like on this car, so I don't really know like how like I guess like car aero and like tires kind of work. But from what I felt like, just with the brake bias I was using in qualifying, because I ran kind of a lower brake bias what the default setup was giving us for qualifying, and then I kind of kept it that way for the first couple laps, and I would just feel like the rear was getting kind of light into some of these corners, and it would just carry throughout the corner on exit when I tried to like get on the gas and stuff. So I kind of went back up on a bit, tried to stabilize the rear under braking, and I think it definitely helped me a lot. And just plus, just the way this track is, a lot of undulation around here. I forgot how much there is because I haven't raced this track in ages, probably since like when the NASCAR Road Pro stuff was going here back in like 2022. So it's been a little while since I've raced here, but I forgot like this is quite a fun track, and definitely tires were way more important than I thought they were going to be, because it's just all about not spinning them, because like I was spinning them real bad. I probably wasn't doing the best to them in the 9 o'clock race like what I was doing earlier. So I tried to be as smooth as possible, and I think that really led to us getting a pretty good gap there, just being when we were really, really consistent throughout the whole race, kind of just match my times every lap. So definitely just felt good to kind of just have a consistent pace right there and to pull out the gap we did.
Yeah, and I imagine some of that stock car experience definitely helps with managing a bit of wheel spin. Of course, those cars not exactly known for keeping it easy on power down here. Sophie, you got anything for add to Daniel tonight?
I mean, honestly, Daniel, it felt like you just kind of walked away from the field. You talked about what you needed to do, having learned from previous races. Was there anything you were doing? Was the track evolving at all? Were you having to change any of the tools, run a different sway bar as the race went on?
No, I was pretty consistent with the bars I was running. I didn't even change them at all. I didn't even change them from what the default was, because they actually just felt that good to me. So pretty much the only thing I was just messing with was the brake bias, like I mentioned, just kind of going up on it, trying to stabilize the rear a little bit under braking, and I think it definitely helped me out just to help myself run a smooth, consistent pace. And yeah, just like I said, just being smooth on throttle, just being smooth with inputs, with just how much we're going like up and down with all the elevation changes. So yeah, definitely like I said, definitely kind of surprised me just how light. I mean, it's probably because of this car, right? Not a lot of downforce compared to like the Indy cars, so it's probably like known to like slide around quite a bit. So you really got to hustle it, and think we did a good job of that.
Well, certainly good enough to pick up the win here tonight, Dale. You know the drill. Friends, family, sponsors, anybody like to shout out, floor is yours.
Yeah. Shout out to all these guys to come out and race. Shout out to you guys for broadcasting this series as well. It's always cool to come out when I'm able to run the SOS and stuff because, like I said, I really have a lot of fun driving this car and the IndyCar. So, yeah, looking forward to running the IndyCar Series race sometime during the week. I think the broadcast is on Wednesday nights. So we'll probably try to do that. But love coming out here racing like the open wheel stuff. But yeah, thank you guys again for broadcasting. Thanks to everyone watching, and hopefully we put on a good show for you.
Well, thanks for joining us again, Daniel. We'll catch you whenever we catch you next time. Maybe next time as the series heads to the Charlotte Roval. That's kind of a bit more familiar territory for you.
Ooh, we'll have to see. I like me the Roval, but we'll see. But I appreciate you fellas, and y'all have a good one.
Yeah, have a good one, Daniel.
All right, thanks, Jacob.
And that'll do it for Mr. Falkingham. Winner once again here in Indy NXT competition. 3 races, 3 different winners, Sophie. We've had ourselves quite the interesting start to the season as we'll head into the 4th round. The first one with a chance for rain at the Charlotte Roval in its most recent 2025 configuration change. That'll be certainly a change of pace for these drivers, tackling kind of the first time we've hit a proper Roval in this series.
Yeah, I don't believe we have gone to other than maybe the obviously the Indy road course. That is a roval, Jacob. But yeah, look forward to it. It's a very challenging track, deceptively challenging. Is the Charlotte Roval, much like Mid Ohio here, a very challenging track that's difficult to pass. And we kind of saw some folks kind of losing their patience as they tried to navigate around cars that they were looking to pass there, Jacob.
Yes, and I imagine we're going to be in for another tumultuous, tricky set of battles when we take on the Roval next week. But this isn't all we've got going on the channel here. We'll first start by shouting out the camera supplier for tonight, Whiplash Sim Cams. If you need some cameras for photography, broadcasting, any of your iRacing camera needs, feel free to check out Whiplash Sim Cams. They brought us some great ones here for Mid-Ohio this week. Secondly, we'll cover off the rest of the week's coverage here as tomorrow night we'll have premiere coverage of the IndyCar Oval Series Top Split from Las Vegas at 8:15 Eastern Time. That will also be accompanied by the Jim Brooks Memorial from Pocono for the Area 51 Series that starts 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time, alongside mine and Sophie's coverage of the Indy NXT Oval Series, 9:30 p.m. Eastern Time from the Magic Mile, New Hampshire. Wednesday night, we'll have special coverage of the IndyCar iRacing Series event here from Mid-Ohio, 9 p.m. Eastern Time. Thursday night will be kind of a triple header of sorts as LGN will be on the call for the Elite Racing League Indy Lights Series 7th and 8th rounds from St. Petersburg and Milwaukee, respectively, alongside the AMA Grand National Series, 8:20 p.m. Eastern Time. Start time for that from Chicagoland. And then we're off all the way until Monday of next week with Independence Day weekend going on. Nobody wants to be on the air. They want to be shooting off fireworks and having themselves some fun, and we'll hope everybody gets back safe from all their festivities for next week's action as we'll be taking on the Charlotte Roval for the Road Series, and I believe we're back on a short track in the Richmond Raceway for the Oval Series, so that'll be another great one as well. Thank Nick Studik for thanking all the drivers tonight. We'll thank those that do all the difficult jobs all around the world for making it possible to bring us to do coverage, or I guess allowing us or getting us to the point where we can do coverage of the Indy NXT Road Series here on P1. We'll thank them from the bottom of our hearts, and we'll thank everybody for joining us once again. Have a good night, everybody. We will catch you next time.